My name is Maximilian Powers. Yeah, I know Powers. With a name like that, you'd think I was born wearing a cape, or at least capable of walking through a doorway without tripping. Spoiler alert, I'm not. I'm 18 years old, and my one all-consuming eat, sleep, and breathe it dream? Joining the Round Table of Justice. They're only the coolest, most amazing superhero team on the planet. Think shining armor, but more spandex and way cooler powers. They save the city, they fight the bad guys, they probably even get their dry cleaning done for free. That's the life I want, a life of purpose, of heroism. Not a life defined by how many times I can accidentally set off the fire alarm with a toaster. The problem, aside from my apparent allergy to coordination, is that getting into the Round Table isn't like joining the school chess club. You don't just sign up, you have to be, well, super. You need powers. You need grace. You need to not accidentally superglue your hand to your application form, which for the record, I almost did. Twice. My room is a shrine to these heroes. Posters of Captain Comet, vintage action figures of Night Wraith, even a slightly singed Don't Ask, autograph from Inferno Lad. I study their every move, every recorded battle. I know their catchphrases, their weaknesses, their favorite pizza toppings, or I like to think I do. My friends, or the two guys who haven't yet filed a restraining order against my general vicinity, think I'm nuts. Max, Leo said just yesterday, dodging a flying textbook I swore was securely on my desk. You're more likely to accidentally defeat a supervillain by tripping him with your own feet than by, actually fighting him. He wasn't wrong, probably, but a guy can dream, can't he? The Round Table of Justice isn't just a team to me, it's a symbol, it's a legacy, it's everything my dad stood for, and I, Maximilian Powers, the kid who once got stuck in a revolving door for 20 minutes, am going to be a part of it, somehow. So, yeah, I'm a walking, talking, and frequently stumbling contradiction. Maximilian Powers, aspiring hero, current master of minor calamities. You'd think after 18 years of this, I'd have developed some kind of early warning system for my own clumsiness. Like a little bell that rings before I'm about to walk into a lamppost or spill soda on a very important, very flammable-looking computer console. But no such luck. My life is just a series of near misses and comedic fumbles. But the dream? That's the one thing I haven't fumbled. Not yet, anyway. And today was supposed to be the day it all started to come true. The tryouts, my big chance. What could possibly go wrong? Famous last words, right? My mornings are legendary, not in a good way. More like, did you hear what Max did this morning? Followed by muffled laughter. Today, tryout day, was no exception. It started promisingly enough. I woke up before my alarm. A miracle, I tell you. I even managed to get toothpaste onto the brush without redecorating the bathroom mirror. Small victories, you know? But then came the stairs, my arch nemesis. I was halfway down, dreaming of acing the agility course. Ironic, I know, when my foot decided to have a philosophical disagreement with a step. The next thing I knew, I was performing an impromptu barrel roll. I landed at the bottom in a heap. My head hit the newel post with a rather impressive thwack. My mom, who has the hearing of a bat and the patience of a saint, mostly, rushed in. "Maximilian, are you all right?" she asked, her voice tight with that familiar blend of concern and resignation. I groaned, mostly for dramatic effect. But here's the weird part. I wasn't really hurt. A bit dizzy, sure. My dignity was definitely bruised. But physically, nothing. Not a scratch. Not even a headache. It's always like this. I fall, I crash, I collide, and I just sort of bounce. Or things around me break, but I'm fine. It's like I have my own personal, very localized, very ineffective luck field. Breakfast was next. Cereal. How can anyone mess up cereal? I'll show you. I reached for the milk, but my elbow, apparently on a mission of its own, connected with the orange juice carton. It went flying. Not just spilling, but actually achieving liftoff, performing a graceful arc before crash landing onto the floor, creating a sticky orange lake. My cat, Whiskers, who secretly runs my life, just looked at me with disdain, then started daintily stepping around the puddle. Even the cat thinks I'm a lost cause. I sighed, grabbed a towel, and wondered if the Round Table had a Most Improved Klutz award. I'd be a shoo-in. The final pre-tryout challenge was getting dressed. I laid out my special tryout outfit, a slightly too tight athletic shirt and some old track pants. I figured it screamed eager and athletic, or possibly desperate and slightly unhinged. As I was pulling on my pants, I hopped a little to get them over my hips. My foot caught on the rug. You can see where this is going, can't you? I pitched forward, arms flailing, and managed to headbutt my own closet door, hard. Again, that dull thud, the expectation of pain, stars, cartoon birds circling my head, and again, nothing. Just a faint ringing in my ears, and the deep, unsettling feeling that the universe enjoyed playing practical jokes on me. My dad, Arthur Powers. He wasn't just any hero. He was the hero. At least he was to me. He was the original Commander Courage, one of the founding members and the first leader of the Round Table of Justice. His picture hangs in the Hall of Heroes at the Tower of Justice, all stern jaw and determined eyes. It also hangs in our living room. A slightly less formal one where he's actually smiling. That's the one I prefer. He wasn't just strong or fast or whatever powers made him Commander Courage. He was good, genuinely, truly good. He believed in helping people no matter what. He believed in justice, not just the flashy kind, but the everyday kind too. He used to tell me stories, not bedtime stories about dragons and princesses, but real stories about his missions, about outsmarting villains, about saving people from burning buildings, sometimes with Inferno Lad, who apparently always overdid it with the flames, about the importance of teamwork. He made it sound incredible, but also incredibly hard. He never glorified the fighting. He always emphasized the responsibility that came with having power. With great power comes a ton of paperwork, Max, he'd joke, but I knew what he meant. He wanted me to understand that being a hero wasn't about the fame or the cool costume, it was about what you did for others. His boots are still in the back of my mom's closet. Metaphorically, they're huge, impossible to fill. Literally, they're a size 12 and surprisingly scuffed up. I used to sneak in and try them on when I was a kid. I'd clomp around the house pretending to be him, tripping over them constantly. Even then, the clumsiness was strong with this one. But wearing those boots, even for a few minutes, made me feel closer to him, closer to that world of heroes and villains. He was my inspiration. He still is. Every time I think about giving up on my dream, which is often, I think of him. I think of his courage. And I try to find a little of my own. The Round Table of Justice was his life's work, really. He helped build it from the ground up. He established their code of conduct, their training protocols, even helped design their first headquarters. He poured everything into making it a force for good in a world that desperately needed it. And he believed, truly believed, that anyone with the heart of a hero could make a difference. Even someone who, say, regularly mistook sugar for salt when baking. He always encouraged me, even when my attempts at helping usually ended in some minor form of property damage. He saw something in me, I think, or maybe he was just a really optimistic dad. My dad didn't die of old age. Heroes like him rarely do. He died fighting. He died saving the city. He died at the hands of a man named Newton. Dr. Phineas Newton, a physicist who went spectacularly off the deep end. Newton discovered how to manipulate gravity. Not just a little bit, like making things float. He could increase it, decrease it, reverse it, create localized black holes the size of a basketball. He was, and still is, terrifyingly powerful. And he hated heroes. Hated the Round Table. Especially hated my dad, Commander Courage, who always managed to foil his grand, gravity-defying schemes. I was 10 when it happened. I remember it like one of those super vivid, super awful nightmares you can't quite shake. The sky had gone a weird, bruised purple. Things were floating upwards. Cars, mailboxes, terrified pigeons. Newton was attacking the city center, demanding... Well, honestly, I don't even remember what his demands were that day. Probably something about global submission or a lifetime supply of anti-gravity hair gel. The Round Table went to stop him. My dad led the charge, like always. I watched it on the news, my heart hammering against my ribs, my mom holding my hand so tight her knuckles were white. The battle was insane. Buildings buckled, the ground rippled like water, heroes flew or were flung through the air. My dad fought Newton one-on-one. It was an epic clash. Commander Courage, the immovable object, versus Newton, the guy who could literally unmove any object. For a while, it looked like Dad was winning. He was smart, see? He always found a way. But Newton was relentless. He was cruel. He trapped my dad, increasing the gravity around him, crushing him, while the other heroes were pinned down or dealing with citywide chaos. I saw it. I saw my father fall. The news cameras didn't shy away. The city mourned Commander Courage. They built statues. They named a park after him. But for me, the world just tilted. Permanently. Newton got away, of course. Slipped through the cracks in the chaos he created. He's still out there, a constant lurking threat. And every time I see a news report about some gravity-related anomaly, my stomach clenches. Losing my dad to Newton didn't just leave a hole in my life. It lit a fire. A very small, very clumsy fire, maybe. But it's there. The desire for justice. The need to see Newton pay for what he did. And the quiet, desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, I could be strong enough to help make that happen. So, today was the day. Tryout day for the Round Table of Justice Junior Aspirant Program. It's not the full Round Table, obviously. You don't just waltz in and get a seat next to Titanica or Shadow Wing, but it's the first step. The only step for someone like me. I'd been preparing for weeks. Well, preparing might be a strong word. I'd mostly been rereading my dad's old training manuals and accidentally knocking over a lot of training dummies in my backyard. My mom said the garden gnomes were starting to look nervous. I was a bundle of nerves and poorly contained excitement. This was it. My chance to prove I wasn't just Arthur Power's clumsy son. The tryouts were being held at the old Civic Arena. a place that had seen better days but was big enough to contain potential superhero-level mishaps. I had the address memorized. I had my slightly too small bus pass. I even packed a protein bar, just like the real athletes do. Though knowing my luck, I'd probably choke on it. My journey to the arena started with an unfortunate incident involving a rogue puddle and a very surprised businessman's briefcase. Let's just say his very important papers got an unexpected bath. I mumbled about 100 apologies and fled before he could call security, or worse, his dry cleaner. Then came the bus. Usually public transport is my friend. It contains my chaos within a moving metal box. But today, the bus was crowded. Super crowded. I was squeezed between a lady with a giant feather-covered hat and a guy who smelled suspiciously of tuna fish and existential dread. When my stop came, I tried to make a graceful exit. Instead, my backpack snagged on someone's shopping bag, sending a cascade of oranges rolling down the aisle. I swear, fruit is out to get me. More apologies, more embarrassed blushes. I practically leaped off the bus, leaving a trail of citrusy chaos in my wake. Finally, I was within sight of the Civic Arena. My heart was doing the Macarena against my ribs. This was it. The air crackled with, well, probably just static electricity, but in my head, it was the energy of heroes. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and tried to look confident and capable. I took one step and promptly tripped over a perfectly visible, completely stationary parking curb. I went down hard. This time my knee connected with the unforgiving concrete. I braced for the searing pain, the inevitable blood, the mortifying rip in my track pants, but again, that weird dull thud, and then nothing. Just a scuff mark on the pavement and my dignity, which was now officially on life support. Section 6. Blaze too hot to handle, literally. As I was picking myself up from my latest gravity-induced humiliation, dusting off my already scuffed pants, I heard a voice that sounded like crackling embers and barely suppressed amusement. Nice landing. You training for the Olympic falling team? I looked up and my brain temporarily short-circuited. Standing there, arms crossed, with an actual honest-to-goodness flicker of flame dancing above one perfectly sculpted eyebrow was Blaze. Yes, Blaze. Member of the Round Table, master of pyrokinesis, and rumored to have the shortest fuse in the entire hero community. He was even more impressive and intimidating in person than on his trading cards. He was leaning against a wall near what looked like a side entrance to the arena, probably reserved for actual heroes, not hopeful wannabes like me. He wasn't in full costume, just jeans and a t-shirt that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, but there was no mistaking him. The fiery red streaks in his dark hair, the intense eyes that seemed to see right through you, and the faint smell of cinnamon and controlled combustion that clung to him. I think my mouth fell open. Hi? I managed, which I'm sure sounded incredibly heroic and articulate. Smooth, Max, real smooth. Blaze raised that fiery eyebrow a little higher. You here for the tryouts, kid? He asked, his voice surprisingly calm, though there was an edge to it. Like he was perpetually 2 seconds away from spontaneously combusting, or at least telling you exactly what he thought of your life choices. Or did you just wander in off the street looking for a place to practice your face plants? Ouch. Direct hit to my already fragile ego. Tryouts, I mumbled, feeling my face heat up. Probably not as much as his could, but still. Maximilian Powers. I'm Maximilian. Powers, sir. Blaze, sir. I was definitely babbling. He just stared at me for a moment, those fiery eyes seeming to catalog every nervous twitch, every misplaced strand of hair. I half expected him to just tell me to go home, that they didn't accept candidates who couldn't even navigate a simple sidewalk. Instead, he just grunted. Well, try not to set anything on fire that I haven't already approved for incineration, he said, a tiny smirk playing on his lips. Then he turned and gestured vaguely towards the main entrance. Official tryouts are that way. Don't be late, and try to stay upright. With that, he pushed off the wall and disappeared through the side door, leaving me standing there feeling like I just had a close encounter of the very hot, very sarcastic kind. Section 7, the spectacular fail missing my shot. Okay, so meeting Blaze, even if he basically called me a professional faller, was kind of a thrill. It jolted me. This was real. I was here. I just needed to get inside and show them what I wasn't sure what I could show them, other than an uncanny ability to survive my own clumsiness. I hurried towards the main entrance, a new spring in my step. Or maybe that was just the residual terror from talking to a superhero. The line to get into the arena wasn't too long, mostly other teenagers looking equally nervous and excited. I could do this. I was so close. And then, disaster, in a form I hadn't anticipated. As I was nearing the doors, a maintenance cart, one of those low, flat ones loaded with cleaning supplies, came rumbling around the corner, unattended. It was picking up speed, heading directly towards a group of younger kids who were there to watch, their faces pressed against a barrier. No one else seemed to notice. My brain screamed, "Do something!" My body, however, had other ideas. I lunged, not gracefully, not heroically. I lunged like a newborn giraffe trying to win a sprint. My foot caught on something, air probably, knowing my luck, and I went sprawling. This time it wasn't just a simple trip. I executed a full-on unintended slide tackle, right into the path of the runaway cart. There was a colossal crash. Buckets flew. Mops went airborne. I think I saw a bottle of window cleaner achieve escape velocity. I ended up tangled in a mess of cleaning equipment, smelling strongly of lemon polish and regret. The cart, thankfully, had been stopped, or rather it had crashed into me and then stopped. The kids were safe. A few adults rushed over looking concerned, then annoyed when they saw it was just me, covered in suds. My heroic moment had turned into another slapstick routine. By the time I untangled myself, explained to a very unimpressed security guard that I wasn't trying to steal cleaning supplies, and made it to the registration desk, it was too late. The doors to the main arena floor were closed. A stern-looking woman with a clipboard gave me a pitying look. Sorry, son. Registration for the tryouts closed 5 minutes ago. We run a tight schedule. 5 minutes. I had missed my chance. My one shot. All because of a runaway cart and my own spectacular inability to stay on my feet. I felt my heart sink into my lemon-scented sneakers. My dream, which had felt so close, just evaporated like spilled water on a hot day. Section 8. When everything went sideways, my unscheduled power demo. I just stood there, outside the closed arena doors, feeling like the world's biggest loser, which, given my track record for the day, was probably accurate. All those years of dreaming, all that misguided preparation, all for nothing. I could hear the sounds from inside. Cheers, energy blasts, the thud of people landing correctly, unlike me. It was like listening to a party you weren't invited to. I slumped against the wall, the smell of industrial cleaner a fitting perfume for my failure. I kicked at a loose pebble on the ground, a tiny, pathetic act of frustration. And that's when things got weird. Weirder than usual, even for me. The pebble I kicked didn't just skitter away. It sort of hung in the air for a second, like it forgot gravity was a thing. I blinked. Did I imagine that? Probably. My brain was likely numb from disappointment and excessive floor-related impacts. I sighed, pushing myself off the wall, ready to trudge home and face the sympathy of my mom and the smug indifference of my cat. As I turned, my elbow bumped the metal doorframe. Not hard, just a casual, clumsy tap. Except the doorframe, like it was made of water. It shimmered for a second, then solidified, but there was a dent there now. A perfect impression of my elbow. What in the... Okay, now I was officially freaked out. My heart started hammering again, but this time it wasn't excitement or nerves. It was pure, unadulterated panic. What was happening to me? I looked at my hands. They looked normal. Slightly grimy from the cleaning cart incident, but normal. I tried to take a deep breath, but it hitched in my throat. I stumbled back a few steps away from the rippling doorframe, and my heel caught on that same stupid loose pebble I'd kicked earlier. This time, I didn't just trip. As I started to fall, a wave of something pulsed out from me, a visible distortion in the air, like heat haze on overdrive. The ground beneath my feet didn't just meet me, it buckled. The concrete cracked, spiderwebbing outwards. The nearby empty metal barricades didn't just rattle, they twisted and contorted as if a giant invisible hand had crumpled them like paper. A parked security golf cart a few yards away suddenly levitated 3 feet off the ground, spun twice, and then dropped with a sickening crunch. I landed yet again on my butt, but this time the impact felt different. Cushioned, like I'd landed on a giant marshmallow. The chaos around me, however, was anything but soft and fluffy. I had a very, very bad feeling this wasn't just clumsiness anymore. Section 9. An unexpected invitation. You're in? The dust settled. The golf cart groaned. My brain was still trying to process what had just happened. Did do that? Me? Maximilian can't walk and chew gum powers? It seemed impossible, but the twisted metal and the cracked concrete were pretty compelling evidence. I was staring at my hands, expecting them to be glowing or vibrating or something equally dramatic, when a shadow fell over me. I looked up, my heart leaping into my throat. Oh great, security, or maybe the police, or maybe the guys in white coats with the comfy jackets that tie in the back. This was it. My superhero career ending before it even began, probably with a hefty bill for property damage. But it wasn't security. It was Blaze. He was standing there, arms crossed again, but that fiery eyebrow was now arched so high it was practically in his hairline. His usual look of cynical amusement was replaced by something else. Shock? Disbelief? Maybe even respect? Nah, couldn't be. He surveyed the scene, the mangled barricades, the levitating then crashing golf cart, the general air of localized Armageddon I seemed to have created. He looked at the dented, rippling doorframe. Then he looked at me, still sitting on the ground like a stunned mullet. He was silent for a long moment, which for Blaze was an eternity. Okay, he said finally, his voice carefully neutral. So the falling thing, and this. He gestured vaguely at the destruction. That explains a lot, like why you're not in a full body cast after all those tumbles I saw you take earlier. He took a step closer, crouching down slightly. His eyes, usually burning with impatience, were now intensely focused, analytical. You didn't just trip, did you, kid? You've been unconsciously, what? Manipulating kinetic energy? Localized reality warping? Something that makes you incredibly hard to hurt and incredibly prone to breaking stuff when you lose control? I just stared at him, speechless. He basically described my entire life. He stood up, a slow grin spreading across his face. It wasn't a mocking grin this time, it was different. You know, he said, the tryouts were for finding raw talent, people with potential. Most of them just showed off flashy, controlled stuff. He kicked a piece of broken concrete lightly. This is raw, this is spectacularly uncontrolled. But man, this is power. He extended a hand to me. The official tryouts are over, but I think the roundtable might just have an opening for someone who can accidentally remodel a parking lot without trying. He winked, a tiny flame dancing at the corner of his eye. Welcome to the show, Maximilian Powers. Try not to break everything on your first day.